Why should you care? It's a different question. There are two reasons why we should care. The first reason is the social responsibility. We are in the digital industry creating the future for a lot of people, and it's our responsibility to make it accessible and usable for as much people as we can.
For the past few months, we have been on an exciting journey, helping Zamina Ahmed, founder of Shades and Contrast, develop her brand. We knew it couldn't just stop there, and we knew how important it was to share her message with you. So in this video, we get to sit down together and discuss how we can and should shape the future of product design. Her mission is that we should all be thinking and practicing inclusive design and integrating diversity into how we show up and how we build digital products.
You need to take diversity as an innovation driver, because when different opinions are coming together, it's not easy, but it's conflicting, and then it creates something new.
What's good, everybody, and welcome back to Hyperfocus. Today we have a really special guest. We have Zamina from Shades and Contrast with us today.
Hello.
It's great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely.
I'm totally excited. First time in your headquarter office here.
Me too, me too. And it's been a really great journey with Zamina, because we have been fortunate enough to work with her for the last couple of months. Zamina has gone out on her own and is going on her own journey and building her own company called Shades and Contrast. And yeah, we've been fortunate enough to be part of that story and helped to develop the brand. So we thought it'd be great to actually get Zamina in and have a chat about
Shades and Contrast?
About Shades and Contrast, yeah. And everything that you're doing, and basically find out why Shades and Contrast exists. So let's jump straight into it. So for those who do not know you personally, like we have the pleasure, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Shades and Contrast and your background?
Yeah, so thanks for the invitation again. I'm totally excited to talk to you here in this format. And yeah, let me introduce myself. I am Zamina, and I'm an expert in user-centered product development. The fields I cover is mainly around product management, innovation management, and user experience. And this is very important to create products with customer value. And with Shades and Contrast, I'm driving the topics and including the topics diversity and inclusion into product development, because I strongly believe that diversity and inclusion is a main focus and goal for better products for the future.
Okay, cool. So we hear the word diversity and inclusion a lot, especially when we're building products and also in brand. I'd like to kind of try and drill down a little bit and also try and find out really what is the difference between diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, so you hear a lot about diversity at the moment. It's a very ongoing topic in very much companies when it comes to employing people, but also so in the HR department, for example. But diversity focuses on the difference of people, mainly on 7 dimensions, which is age, gender, ethnic origin, educational background, your sexual orientation, your religion, and disability. And these are the diversity mentioned, which are very well known. But diversity is a very descriptive topic. It's describing the difference, and you understand and you are aware of the difference. Inclusion is going one step further. With inclusion, you are not only describe and be aware of the difference, you value people who are different, you respect their different opinions, and you try to include them in whatever you have, in your team, in your organization, in your work. And so inclusion creates, in the end, a feeling of belonging. Because no matter who I am or no matter what opinion I have, you include me and integrate me in your team, and you value and respect my opinion, and you also try to get value out of my opinion. And so we have together a feeling of belonging.
So from what it sounds like, it's very much deep-rooted in the culture of how people come together, right? I think that's really interesting as well, because I think often you see that companies try and solve it by just including people in a certain process or trying to create certain archetypes to try and reference certain values inside of experiences, and that's not completely immersive, is it? That's not completely inclusive within the product.
What you often see is that marketing departments are creating at the moment very much diversity photographies, right?
Yeah.
So you have colorful pictures of diverse people, different people, but with this you don't have an inclusive culture. You don't integrate them, you don't include them, you don't create this culture of belonging. There is much more you need to do to create inclusion. It's
very much, I suppose, like generally it seems like it's a very surface layered approach from marketing departments, and from what I understand, you want to get really deeper into the psyche, into the culture, and try and build from the ground up somewhat. So you talk about designing products, and I think design is a really interesting word, because often design is associated with aesthetics, right? And it's not always about the aesthetics, right? Especially when you're building and creating something.
Yeah. So I think especially in the German-speaking countries, we have a misconception about the word design. In German-speaking countries, you think about design something good-looking, something beautiful, something which is very well styled. But to design something in English language, you know it better, is more than that. It's about the function. It's about the functionality, that I create something. And also design thinking and product design means the whole process. You identify an opportunity, you define the problem you want to solve, you create a solution, and then you validate it with your users. So this is about design thinking, and this is also, when we talk about product design, we talk about the whole process.
Cool. I think this is pretty much embodies what we're talking about here. This chart that you brought along with you as well, which is the idea of empathy, then define, ideate, prototype, and test. Inclusivity. We hear this a lot in like everyday language when it comes to building products and designing. But how can we really make sure when we're actually going on our journey to create something, to build a product, how can we make sure that we are actually, apart from you not being there, right? How can we take it into our own hands from the beginning to actually be inclusive? What are some kind of, I suppose, cheats, some quick tips, or some way that we can actually handle that ourselves from the ground up?
Mm-hmm. So when you start creating a product, you get a team together. And actually you can start there. What team members do I invite? What perspectives do we have on the table? And ask yourself, can we invite more? Can we integrate more diversity in our team members? Because the team members having their perspectives are creating the product. So diversity in the team is a very first step. And also questioning yourself, can you integrate more here? Then second is you create a product, and then you could recognize the exclusion you create at the moment. Who do I exclude? Who do I include? And why do we exclude these customer groups? And are they maybe relevant for us? And how big is the potential behind these excluded customers? That's a second important step. And then when you create a product, you could also ask yourself, do I have to use a persona again? So, which is a very big stereotype, or can I create something else? Can I list all my diverse users, map all the similarities they have, and I create a persona with a different approach coming from diversity, mapping similarities and having then a persona which is maybe different.
Okay.
And last but not least, you could test with your users and ask yourself, do I invite different users instead of the same persona all the time?
Okay. I mean, this sounds great, and we definitely should be doing it, but I don't mean to be rude. But let's say I am a very small business, and I'm selling tools, for example, and I never show people in my product. So I have a small website. I'm a small family-run business. Why should I care? Why should I even invest in the idea of inclusivity in this very small family-run business? Does it really make a big difference?
Yeah. So it sounds very big, but there are also small steps you can take, and that's very easy. So, for example, you check. Do I need more contrast in the colors? Do I need different languages because I have different customer groups? Do I need simple language? Do I have all text behind my pictures so a screen reader can read it to blind people, for example? There are small steps where when you create a website, for example, you can make it accessible for everyone. And this is an inclusive design checklist you can make, and then with these small steps, you are already inclusive. Why should you care? It's a different question. So there are two reasons why we should care. The first reason is the social responsibility. We are in the digital industry creating the future for a lot of people, and it's our responsibility to make it accessible and usable for as much people as we can. And not only in the digital academia, people who have a smartphone, who have a university degree and so on, but make it accessible for a lot of people. So social responsibility is one reason. And the second reason is economic interest. If you have a website or app and it should be usable by a lot of people, you have to take into account how diverse are these people and what different needs do they have. So I think we cannot proceed like that we design for a specific stereotype, make it easy for a specific person, but make it hard to use for everyone else. That's not a better future. A better future is that we're taking diversity into account.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like lots of levels there as well. And if I just backtrack to being the small business owner already excludes so many potential from a very small perspective, excludes sales, right? And at the end of the day, they have an e-commerce platform. Many people will not be able to access it, whether you're colorblind or you have some kind of visual impairment. You stop people being able to allow the enjoyment or the opportunity of your experience. So I think there are very small things, like you say, you can do. I think it's super interesting, and there's a lot of really kind of, as Zamina said, there's smaller things that we can actually begin to implement. So I'm going to leave some links also to Zamina's website as well. In the comments below, in the description below, and also some links as well, like the WAG standards as well. You can simply test colors to make sure that they're actually viewable for visually impaired people as well. So we'll leave some tips in the description so you can immediately get started with that. I think that will definitely help.
Yeah.
All right, so we talk about inclusion and accessibility, and we touched on it a little bit, but I really want to go a bit more deeper, because I think those two words can often kind of get mixed up a little bit. So can you explain and kind of just break those two things apart a bit more, and explain to us what inclusion and accessibility are.
Yeah, so when I talk about my topic, product inclusion design, I recognize that a lot of people think about disabled people. And making products for disabled people means you're actually talking about accessible design, accessibility. In accessibility, you think about disabilities as a permanent situation. Mm-hmm. So you might not are able to walk, you might not sitting in a wheelchair, you're not able to hear, you're not able to see. So it's a permanent situation. But in inclusive design, you think about disability as a context, as a situation. So I might have 2 arms now, but when I carry a baby, I only have 1 arm using the app. So that is one context where, and you have to think about your product. In which contexts are you user using your app or your product? Is it when I'm carrying a baby? Is it at the airport? I cannot listen. Is it in a bar? I also cannot listen, and stuff like that. So what temporary situations you have that disability is created and make it hard to use. So product inclusion sees disability as context dependent, and it says that you have to think about the context where your product will be used.
Okay, I think it's also important, like also we talk about disability, but I think it's, you know, it's not necessarily a disability to the people who are in that current circumstance. It's just a debilitation. It's like the accessibility to a certain way that sometimes is seen as a norm or standard is not accessible to those people.
Yeah, and we often underestimate what effect it has, what benefit. For example, English subtitles in movies. It was created for people who cannot hear so that they can read what is going on in the movie. But to be honest, and also looking at the numbers, non-native speakers like me watching movies in the original voice, but using subtitles as a support so that they can fully understand. And yeah, we underestimate what the minority, we create something for the minority, but the majority benefits from it.
I also have to say, because I've had this conversation with Jan many times as well, it's not just you who do not get everything in movies. Mm-hmm. Also, from an English speaking person, it's often very colloquial. So I might be watching something, I'm from the north of England, so I might be watching a movie that's filmed in the south of England. Half the time, I don't understand what they're saying, mm-hmm. because there's so much difference in the way that we speak. So a lot of that storytelling is also through gestures and sound. There's so many senses that make up the picture, and it's not just about being able to understand every single part of the language. Mm-hmm. So I often have this conversation with foreign friends, because I live in a foreign country. Oh, I'm the foreigner. With people who are watching English-speaking movies, and it's don't feel like you're missing out. And I would say always go for the subtitle version rather than having dubbed, because just having the nuance helps to tell the story. You don't need to get every single word. Mm-hmm. Little side note, but something that I thought was quite interesting as well.
Yeah.
All right, so for the everyday person, all right, who really wants to make a difference and do something positive, how can they get started in bringing inclusivity and diversity into what they're doing?
I think the checklist about inclusive product design is the easiest way to start. Color contrast, all text behind the pictures, simple language, multi-language. Is the font big enough? Do I have older people? Do I need maybe lower bandwidth so it's loading the web page? Something like that. So that is very easy to deliver and make it accessible for a lot of people.
All right, cool. I think that just about wraps it up. Thank you. And I do actually have one last question for you. And it's really more about what the scope is for Shades and Contrast. Where are you going next? What's the future hold for Shades and Contrast?
Yeah, so I'm iterating on my services. At the moment, I have different services. So the first step is to offer companies a workshop where you can check how inclusive is my product and how can I expand it to more customer groups. That would be the second step. How can I make my product more inclusive and expand and reach more customer groups? And by this, I want to drive the topic product inclusion to create better products and also a better future. Would be the next steps with Shades and Contrast.
Fantastic. A better future. Absolutely. We're all here for a better future. So yeah, thank you very much. Cool. Well, I think we've reached the end. I think that was super interesting and very insightful. And yeah, we have to end it here. We could go on for hours, yeah. I'm pretty sure. But I will leave the links in the description, again, as I said, below, to Zamina's website as well, so you can go check out and get a little bit more kind of involved in what she's doing. And we'll also have some hints and tips of how you can get started as well. Zamina, thank you so much for coming and spending the time and sitting with us and having a chat about...
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah, so if you have got this far, thank you, because we've both enjoyed being here. Hit that like button, it really helps us to grow the channel. And also, you can subscribe for more content like this. As always, we will see you in the next one. Peace.
Boop, boop.
Thank you.